It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. The aroma of higher taxes. Welcome. We got Josh Waters in studio with us. Josh, it's always great to have you, sir.
Hey, it's good to be here, Paul. Good morning.
All right, so tell us a little bit about, we missed our normal, regularly scheduled update yesterday, the Conduit Week 8 scorecard. It's a short week, first of all, so I understand we're just kind of going to review some legislation that's been scored, is still maybe out there, correct?
Yeah, at this point in the session, it's almost getting hard to keep track of what is where. So I thought it'd be a good idea to maybe get back on and let people know, okay, this bill is in this stage. And so when we look through past week's scorecards, the big things that obviously stick out are the tax bills, right? So the gas tax, that has passed, just the straight gas tax increase, Senate Bill 336, that's been signed into law. October 1, 2019, you're going to be paying more at the pump, right? The other part of that is a proposed constitutional amendment. So that has passed the House and the Senate, but the people of Arkansas will actually have opportunity to vote on that next November, in the November 2020 general election. So the legislature's there, they've done their part. They've, stamped their sign of approval or
of not allowing a half-cent sales tax to expire.
That's right.
Continuing and really it's a brand new tax.
It is a new tax because, Paul, what's set up now, like you said, was set to expire, right? And so we hear this, well, we don't need to adjust the will of the people. The will of the people on that vote was, yes, we agree for 10 years to pay a little more in sales tax to help our roads. Now they're coming back with a new tax, a new proposal, and saying, well, we want to extend this, make it permanent, a permanent 0.5% sales tax increase. So the people will vote on that. That's where that bill is. The other two big tax bills, I think everyone's probably very interested in. One that kind of caught some people off guard, at least the EITC part, but the bill that's going to raise $100 million in cigarette and vaping taxes, and then offset that with a new welfare type program, the earned income tax credit. That you've covered very well the last few days. That bill could be heard on the floor today. It went through an amendment process yesterday on the floor. Looks like it'll be on the floor today. So that's a big piece of legislation. And then the internet sales tax bill, which also includes some corporate tax reforms. That bill has not been heard in committee. I know Bart Hester told the newspaper over the weekend he was going to wait and run it next week with this short week. So we'll probably expect that Monday or Wednesday of next week in the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee.
This earned income tax credit is interesting because yesterday the earned income tax credit is going to raise the taxes on cigarettes and tobacco and vaping, but yesterday they just raised the age to 21 to buy tobacco. And they also had tax increases on cigarettes in that bill as well, correct?
That's correct. There's some increase on the cigarette paper. That's how they taxed it. And then also in that was kind of the low-level floor. Not an expert on that, but right now it's basically says 7.5%, and that's raised it to 9.5%. So there were increases there, and that money is going to be directed to the Cancer Institute in that bill. So that's one cigarette tax increase bill, but the really big one
is
that's going to be huge. Paul, you covered it, but sitting there and watching these small business owners sit in front of a committee and say, if you pass this tax increase, I'm going to have to shut my business. I'm going to have to lay off single mothers. I'm going to have to lay off, people who have families that are working paycheck to paycheck. And almost unfazed by that, that was really concerning.
Yeah, well, especially with Senator Hendren sitting right there next to them, and he's just unfazed. I don't know if there's ever been a snapshot of elitism than that moment right there, as he's sitting there, and these people are. And one of the business owners kept looking at him and being like, and he wouldn't make eye contact, but he kept looking at him and being like, I'm going to have to fire 2 employees if this goes through, because there's just. Because our business is going to decrease, this is going to disincentivize commerce, and yet the Republicans on the committee, I guess because vaping is considered to be maybe socially less acceptable, they didn't care about punishing their business. It's time for them to pay up, even though they're already paying taxes. It's not like they're not paying taxes, but they want them to pay more taxes.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, probably why they're doing it this way. Smoking, vaping is seen as a vice. Most people don't do it. Most people, I think, would agree it's not good for you. Let's not do it. But it goes kind of go back to the freedom issue. Kind of let people do what they want as long as it's not hurting anyone else.
Yeah,
the non-aggression principle. But to take it a step further and to hear, the aspect, how is this going to impact small business in our state, the people who own a vape shop, that was really concerning. So that bill on the Senate floor today most likely will get a vote, and then head on over to the House if it passes out.
What about this bill that would allow? There was a Conduit article on it to allow legislators. It was billed as an ethics reform or ethics reform, but it's going to allow them to use campaign contributions to pay for their own apartments in Little Rock.
Oh, yes. This passed out late yesterday evening at the very end of the day in Senate state agencies. So it passed out of committee. To
remind you, this was a bill that in the title talks about all these great things it's going to do to reform and try to stamp out corruption, and you can't use your campaign money for certain things. But then in the bill it says, but you can use your campaign money to buy yourself an apartment.
Yeah, I think they made an amendment that I guess they thought it would make it sound better but you also have to use part of your per diem or a significant portion. I can't remember the exact language.
That's true.
So they added an amendment to make it sound less bad, but I think that almost highlights how bad it was to start with. Mm-hmm. But that did pass out yesterday as amended. And so that'll go to the full Senate floor now. Okay,
I definitely want to look more at that amendment. What else? What else do we have?
There is some talk, a lot of talk about the minimum wage bill. So just to give an update on that.
Yeah, Robin Lundstrom, State Representative Lundstrom, yes. She was on the program on Friday. She getting a lot of heat from leftists, and her own party abandoned her. And I will say this. She may disagree with this characterization, but the Republican Party of Arkansas threw Robin Lundstrom under the bus right after the governor said he wouldn't support adjusting this minimum wage increase that's going to be bad for small business owners. And then the Republican Party of Arkansas officially, Doyle Webb, said this is the same thing. They respect the will of the voters, not on the sales tax increase.
Not on, yeah, only
only on this.
Yeah.
And so here we are. And so on Friday, Robin said she was moving forward. What's the update?
Yes. So yesterday on the House floor, Robin did an amendment that would make sure, because her intention all along was to say, hey, let's freeze it at the $9.25, which is where we're at now, for these small businesses, for students, for small nonprofits. And so she had an amendment to put extra language in to make it crystal clear that that was her intent. That's what we're trying to do here. So that was amended yesterday. So this bill has to get a 2/3 vote, though, in both chambers, because it was initiated at. And so I think with the political realities, that's going to be tough. But when you look at the numbers, there's 76 Republicans in the House. They can stand to lose 9 and still pass this.
Yeah.
So it's still very possible, you would think, just based on the numbers.
Yeah.
So that's where that bill is at right now.
Yeah, and I hope that the Republicans do the right thing. I think, like you said, with 76 Republicans, I have a feeling, though, the Republicans that maybe are maybe really Democrats, but they have an R next to their name, they're going to vote against this thing. It'll be interesting to see. And look, you want to respect the will of the people, but the bottom line is I get that that principle, but the fact is you have a majority of this state that are not small business owners going to the polls and voting themselves more money from employers who actually own their small business. I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
And this really goes to the very heart of why the minimum wage is wrong, because you have the government telling people how they can sell their labor and telling the employer what they have to pay for their labor. And it actually hurts people on both sides. But, of course, most people believe that a higher minimum wage is going to be good for them. And the reality is it's not. It means less jobs. And it means higher prices. Eventually, everything catches up. We're running out of time, Josh. What else you got?
A good bill that was scored positively was this bill that would provide more transparency in county government. What's your county budget looking like?
Yeah.
That passed out of the Senate yesterday, the
Yeah.
full chamber. So now that'll go to the governor. So a good bill there. I know you highlighted earlier today, and I had on this list about Representative John Payton's bill it would take it from $4,000 to $7,500 on the sales tax exemption for used car sales. So good bill there. Access to healthcare, APRN bills, those failed a few weeks ago. I haven't seen those.
Optometry bill, though, got out of the Senate Public Health.
That's right. The Senate Public Health is persnickety when it comes to legislation like that, expanding the scope of practice. So good to see that, be on the House floor today. I'm sure that's going to draw a lot of debate. And then one other bill I wanted to highlight is this homestead property tax credit increase, which would provide $25 benefit to homeowners. So that bill passed out of the House. I know you had Representative Fight on a few weeks ago.
Yes.
He tried to run that in the Senate Rev and Tax Committee twice. It failed.
Yep.
A competing bill that would say, hey, we'll do that, but then we're also going to drain some of that money to put in general revenue.
Raid. You use the word drain.
Raid.
Raid
Okay.
the Property
Okay.
Tax Relief Trust Fund.
Yes. And so it would first off the top help some voting machines. Good idea, I think. And I know Representative Rye has actually filed a bill that would say, okay, we'll do the property tax relief, we'll do the voting machines, let's not raid, using your word, for more general revenue. So that bill right now is in the House Revenue and Tax Committee. I know they're still trying to whip up votes based on reports in the paper. So that's where that bill is. So it's still, there's, about 3 weeks left in the session. They're meeting till 6, 7 o'clock sometimes now. So it's going to get fast and furious. Things are going to change. Things are going to be amended. And that's part of the process. And, I just encourage people to stay tuned to your show and get updates.
And we can report that the dark money bill that would require groups to disclose their privacy, the donors' privacy, we can report that bill was supposed to run yesterday but did not. So for whatever reason, that may be still having some issues because it was pulled down to be amended, correct?
Yes, it was sent back for amendment, and I don't foresee that bill exactly like it is getting much further. There may be some
they may
effort.
try to run it again in some way.
It's a fluid situation, but feel a lot better about it this week than last week.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have. Thank you, Josh Waters. We appreciate it.